The UDRcast is not affiliated and does not represent any 12-step fellowship. I, Bill Ward, the host of the UDRcast, will be sharing my experience and my journey of recovery. That does include, but is not limited to, the literature contained in the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous and the 12 Steps. Our guests will be sharing their own path to recovery and what has worked for them. The UDRcast encourages and supports all paths to recovery. Welcome everybody to the UDRcast. UDR stands for Uncover, Discover, and Recover. My name is Bill Ward, and I'm coming to you from the recovery capital of Canada, Calgary, Alberta. Here we are going to discuss everything recovery, different perspectives, different experiences, both with the people I know and with others from around the world. If you resonate with anything you've heard on this episode today, we ask that you share it with anyone who you think may benefit from it. If you have any questions or comments, please find us at BILLWARDLIFE and send us a message in the info section. We'll get back to you as soon as we can. If you are interested in more recovery content, you can find the buttons for the YouTube channel and other social media outlets on the homepage, and you will be redirected to those platforms. We can recover, one person, one family, one community at a time. You know, kind of like as we're looking at the step 4, you know, sometimes I wonder why Bill didn't make the first aspect of step 4 fear. Because when I go through the step 4 and I look at most of what's happening in the resentments, what's happening in the relationship conduct, everything is driven by fear, right? And when I first come into the program, I don't really get that. I don't really understand that because I've been so entrenched in my way of thinking. You know, I didn't know there was another way that you could live. I thought it was right to hang on to resentments. I thought it was right to fucking fuck you. 3 times, 3 strikes, you're out, right? You're dead to me. Get the fuck away from me. I thought that was pretty normal, right? And kind of the part of that is validating to me is other people were living the same way. So as they're living like that, and if I do 3 strikes, they're telling me to fuck off. Well, why shouldn't I do it like that too, right? And so as I live in these continual states of fear, but I don't even know it, I act out in certain ways to people. Like I might yell at them, or I take advantage of them, or I just shun them and, you know, think ill of them. Really, underneath the surface, deep down inside of me, I'm dishonoring myself because God is inside of me. But I've never even thought about God as I'm growing up. Fuck, what's God to me when I grow up? God to me is money. God to me is women. God to me is status. God to me is your validation that I need. That's what God is to me. So I don't even really think of this thing called love. And whatever version that I had of what love is, it was really distorted also. It was based in possession. It was based in eroticism. It was based in control and power and needing it from you. Like just the perception that I had on love was really warped, right? But again, I learned this through the society that I lived in. And I don't know any better. Right? So as I kind of come into the step 4 process and kind of think a lot of the way that I live is right, and I think I just have a drug and alcohol problem, and, you know, deep down inside, I think I'm a pretty good guy, right? But I know that drinking and drugging is kind of maybe not the greatest guy. So let's remove the problem of drugs and alcohol, and my one-time good character is going to really return, and it's probably going to flourish. The problem is that when I put the drugs and the drink down, my one-time good character doesn't return the way that I thought it would, right? And I love in the Big Book where it talks about we could wish to be moral. We could wish to be philosophically comforted. We could will these things with all of our might. We can marshal it with the will. As marshaled by the will, it fails, and it fails utterly. And I love that they use the word marshaled by the will, because marshaled means like martial law. As I redouble my efforts at trying to make myself nice and try to change and be better, I fail. And the more that I fail, the more that I create deep down shame, because I'm acting out in ways that aren't centered to me in the God that's inside of me. But I don't know that, because everything that I've learned through what I see, what I smell, what I touch, what I taste, what I hear. And then I think that is what life is about. So then I come in here and I start looking at, okay, my first 3 columns in my resentment. I know who the fuck you are. I know what you've done, and I know that it hurt me. So I've lived the first 3 columns my whole life. That's not a problem. Now looking at the 4th column, looking at the wrongs that I've done, disregarding the wrongs that other people have done entirely. There's no part of theirs in what I'm looking at here. And when I really first looked at that, it was really hard to fucking accept that these people, I can't accept what they've done. Because I built my whole life on what the world has done to me. But when I really became willing, working with my sponsor, and it was really my sponsor because I really believed in him, and he showed me how to really look at this in a different way, building the forgiveness, but looking at how other people were raised, looking at how my mom was raised. Like, I had a lot of resentment with my mom with abandoning me. But when I started understanding my mom had her own mental health issues, she was one child out of 13 kids in a family. My grandpa was an alcoholic. My grandma had to raise 13 kids. My mom pretty much had to raise herself with her peers. She was pregnant at 16 years old. She didn't really have a father. Like, when you add up all these things, fuck, man. She had to do what she had to do. She had to take care of herself. And then she did take care of herself, and then she got us back, and then she was the best mom she could be, right? So when I understand that other people are emotionally ill, spiritually sick, and frequently wrong just like me, it gives me a whole new perspective on everything, right? And then as I really pulled apart the fears, in my first step 4, I wrote down the 50 fears. I looked at them. My sponsor went through them with me. I realized that 40 of the 50 fears were made up in my head, fancied or real. Most of them were fancied, and a lot of them were based in the world that we live in that I fucking took into myself, and I'm trying to live up to all of these statuses and ideas and fucking, if I could only have these things, I'll be happy. So I try to get these things in constant state of fear. And then if I get those things, I'm afraid to lose them in a constant state of fear. So then I'm always in a constant state of fear. Human beings aren't designed to be in a constant state of fear. So I create a lot of inner disturbance, and fucking, you say the wrong thing to me on the wrong day, I'm fucking snapping at the drop of a hat, because I'm like a kettle that's ready to fucking blow its top all the time. And every now and then I will blow my top, so then I fucking simmer down a bit. But because I've never emptied the pot of hot water, I'm always at the verge of fucking boiling point, right? And so by looking at my fears, I realized, okay, I'm driven by 40 fears, but they're made up in my head, but they drive 90% of all of my life and all of the actions in my life. And then I look at the other 10 fears. They're actually given to me for God to help me stay alive. They're given to me by God so that I can navigate this world in a good way. But I've never really saw life like that until I did this work. And then over the years, as I look at my resentments today and my fears today, fuck, it's a cinch really to get through life, honestly. You know, there's good days and bad days, but fuck, nothing really fucking disturbs me. But I think the biggest revealer, the structure of the step 4 in the big book is there for a reason, right? We don't do it the way that we want to do it just because that's the biggest problem. We're selfish and self-centered, and we've always wanted to do shit our own way. So now we do it another way. And even though it might not be how we want to do it, it's the way that the book describes it. And when I sponsor, I'm like, it's by the book. It's always by the book. Why? Because the book is trialed and it's fucking successful. And as I do the sex conduct, relationship conduct in the last part of the step 4, I get to see my whole life in pattern form. I'm selfish, dishonest, self-seeking. I create bitterness, suspicion, and jealousy. I do all these things, and it's like over and over and over and over. And I can see that I've been in the same kind of relationships my whole life. And I'm like, holy fuck. And if I don't do something different in all of these areas in the step 4, I'll drink again. Because the step 4 is about causes and conditions. You know, I had to get to the bottom of this. A business that takes no regular inventory usually goes broke. Well, I never took an inventory ever. And I came into here bankrupt, spiritually, emotionally, and mentally bankrupt because I'd never taken inventory. And it talks about if the business is to be successful, he cannot fool himself about the values. The part that will fool it about the values is my own pride, my own ego, my own rationalization, and my self-centered fear that I may not be able to see, which is why we do this with somebody who's really in tune with what we're doing and they understand self, because they're able to see that. And because I built trust with my sponsor, I had believed in him. And even when he pissed me off, and trust me, there was many times this guy pissed me off and I would drive away from his house thinking, what a fucking asshole. Why would he say that? But I knew one thing. I knew that he fucking cared more about my life than my feelings. And I knew that he had what I wanted. And I knew that he had way more experience than me. So as much as my pride and ego wanted to push away, I didn't have another choice because I tried to get sober on my own for fucking years. I tried to be happy on my own for years. And this was the happiest that I had been in my life. And I trusted this guy and he showed me unconditional love. So I was like, fuck it. What do I got to lose? And once I finished that step 4 and I started seeing these things, I got so happy because I realized, holy fuck, man. There's a reason why I'm angry. There's a reason why I fall into self-pity and I fucking can't get out of. There's a reason why I am this way. And there's a reason why I pick up and use drugs. And then I learned in the step 5 that these things can be cast aside. Chrissy read the step 5 promises. These things are cast aside and I can feel lighter. I've been carrying around this bag of fucking boulders my whole life, but I don't even know I'm carrying it. No wonder life is so heavy, right? And then I get into the step 6 and I'm like, okay, now the work begins. Now I fucking try to unload these rocks one by one in every circumstance and situation in my life. And then as I do that, I start seeing life in a whole new way. And I start seeing that fucking it's not so hard and it's not so burdensome. In the big book on page 417, acceptance is the answer, right? This is so true to me today. Like in step 2, it says either God is everything or he's nothing. What is our choice to be? Well, with the sponsees I'm working with, typically new guys, they're like, they think that God is only the good things. But really, when your life is being shaken by the foundation, you will run to God. And hopefully your eyes are open enough to see that God's the one doing the shaking, right? Because he is shaking you awake to try to fucking try something different. And acceptance was the answer to all of my problems today. And when I am disturbed, it is because I find some person, place, or thing or situation, some fact of my life unacceptable to me. And I can find no serenity until I accept that person, place, or thing or situation being exactly the way it is supposed to be at this moment. Nothing, absolutely nothing happens in God's world by mistake. Until I could accept my alcoholism, I could not stay sober. Unless I accept my life completely on life's terms, I like to say God's terms, I cannot be happy. I need to concentrate not so much on what needs to be changed in the world as what needs to be changed in me and my attitudes. And like, I go from blaming the world over time as I work the processes, especially step 6 and step 10 and 11 and 12. Whenever I'm disturbed, it's a spiritual axiom that the problem is within me. It's an inside job. And once I get good on the inside, but discarding these damaged and unsaleable goods, then everything gets better on the outside. And the more that I practice these precepts in this program, the fucking easier it gets. And life still happens, but it happens in a more beautiful way. Like every situation teaches me something. I look at some like trees and flowers and bugs and insects, and fuck, I learned something from them now today. Just looking at them, like it's really fucked up. So if you're new or you're struggling or you're coming back and you got a problem with drugs or alcohol or life, fuck, this program will change everything if you give it everything you got, right? And it's on a daily basis. Every day we wake up, we ask God to show us what our next step is to be. Not what I think my next step is to be. Thank you for tuning in to the UDRcast. We hope you have enjoyed this episode. The viewpoints and the opinions expressed today were solely of the individual sharing them. If you resonated with this episode, please follow us and share this link with anyone that may benefit from it. Please visit us at BILLWARDLIFE to see everything that we have going on. We can recover, one person, one family, one community at a time.